Hey everybody, it's Matthias here with Little Mo Club, here with Kayvon Karimi, who's a former Little Mo player, played the first Little Mo Nationals back in 1998, 1999. He then went on to play college tennis for Texas A&M, and now he is a tennis coach with his own academy, and he is the father of another Little Mo player who just played the West Regionals in California. And well, we're here to talk today about his journey, his whole tennis journey, and this whole like experience of starting off in the Little Mo's and then following all the way now going with your own children. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Kayvon, please tell us a bit about your experience at the Little Mo. All the way back then. How old were you when you played it for the first time?
Yeah, so I was 9 years old when I played it for the first time, and I remember the first Little Mo Nationals in '98. It was in Dallas, so it felt like a hometown event for me since I'm from Dallas. I played a kid from Hawaii, like his name was Dennis La Hoya, and one of the cool traditions, which they still do, is the player gift exchange. He gave me a box of Hawaiian macadamia nuts, and for some reason, that's like one of the things that really just stuck with me. I think I ended up losing to him first round and getting to the finals of the consolation draw. But the whole tournament had this like fresh, exciting energy. Even back then, you could tell it was going to be something special.
And so, talking about your experience back then, in a picture you had sent over to us, we could see the names of all the players that were in the tournament, and we saw your name that was right under Stevie Johnson, who of course also played D1, went on to play pro. Do you remember meeting other players that you saw later down the road that maybe you ran into in the college circuit, or if you played any pro tournaments? Do you remember anyone you saw?
I mean, I definitely remember Steve Johnson. We played at the '99 Little Mo Nationals in San Diego, and he took that one. And then a year later, we met in the semifinals of the 12s Winter Nationals, Super Nationals in Tucson, Arizona. And of course, he beat me there too, on his way to winning the gold ball. He just kept leveling up after that and ended up becoming the most accomplished men's college player ever. Another name on that list that stands out is Austin Krajicek. He actually ended up being my teammate at Texas A&M and later went on to win the French Open in doubles, silver medal
Wow.
of the Olympic doubles, and hit world number one. So yeah, pretty wild to look back and realize how many high level players were at the tournament as a kid. And I want to say like a majority of the names on that list definitely went on to play D1 tennis.
And then after your experience in the Little Mo's, how did your junior years lead up to you getting recruited and then playing college tennis for such a good school like Texas A&M? What was the journey, the process?
I think it came down to playing a lot of tournaments, honestly. And I played a lot of tournaments year round as a junior. I always felt like the more I competed, the sharper I'd get, both physically and mentally. I played everything from like local tournaments to Little Mode, USTA sectionals and nationals, ITAs, ITFs, you name it. I had the privilege of bouncing between public and private school, which gave me the flexibility to train a lot. Most days I was on the court twice a day, getting in about like 4 to 5 hours. I think that kind of routine really helped my development early on. And as far as Texas A&M, it kind of came together for because I was like consistent through results and showing up at the big national events where coaches were watching, especially like in the 16s and 18s where it really matters. I had built a strong junior resume, and A&M was looking for players who could, essentially just step in. So being part of that program, surrounded by other high level athletes with all that school pride and energy, yeah, it was pretty unreal.
And nowadays, I don't know how it was back then, but now of course you have the UTR, the WTN.
Hmm. Hmm.
You still have the national ranking, which is also kind of tied in a little bit with WTN. How would you say, like, what would you give juniors today? Like, would you say, focus more on UTR rather than WTN, or not focus so much? Like the results will reflect, I guess, the work you're putting in and your results. So what metric would you say is the most complete that kids and their parents should put attention towards?
Oh, that's a really good question. I do think it's tough nowadays compared to when I was playing, because there was no UTR back then, and so the whole UTR is still fairly new to me, and I do think it's makes it tougher on them because back then it was really about it was really about just winning the match. And now I feel like it potentially can add more pressure. Maybe you're thinking about your UTR score and you don't want to lose more than however many games you can't lose, to someone a little lower. So it definitely adds a different element now with this UTR and the way the algorithm reads everything. But you know what? It was the same as when I was a kid. I never really got too into rankings and such. I just kind of thought like technique was more of my metric. Like I was just trying to improve on the court in any way, shape, or form that I could. So my advice would probably be don't get too hung up on your UTR score and WTN score and just kind of strive to improve consistently.
And right, and if you look at like four general areas, which would be like the mental part of the game, the physical part of the game, or like the fitness, the tactical, and then the technical part. How would you then structure that in order to progress as a junior player, from 8, 9 years old all the way to around the age that you're looking for colleges? I mean, do you focus on different things at different time periods throughout the development process, or which one would you uh, say is best, like to focus on?
So the way I tailor my coaching is kind of like based on the player and where they're at, but I do believe that they're all important. It's all important. The match play, the live ball practice, the tossing and feeding and slowing things down. I really think a solid, a good blend of all of those together gives you the best chance of being prepared for the tournament. But so and that's a really good question, but I think there's got to be a mix of all of it, to be honest. But I really think the match play, if the match play isn't there on top of everything, then it's really hard to be able to put it together if you don't have enough matches, if that makes sense. So yeah, and with the younger kids, I really focus on building solid fundamentals early on so they have the right base as they grow.
And how would you suggest? I can tell you from my own experience as a player, sometimes in tournaments when you're down and you feel like you're not playing great or whatever it may be, how can especially at such a young age, how can you try to control, your emotional, your mental response to that and stay competitive um in a way that sets you up to maybe coming back and flipping around the match? How like is there a certain way that kids can work on that?
I mean, that's a really good question, and I think it's tough, and that's by nature why we love tennis so much. But I think it comes down to honestly just like a bit of maturity and being able to not feel like it's the end of the world when you're losing, because it's not the end of the world, So being able to kind of like understand that and understanding that it's tennis is more a game of chess in a way, and you're kind of just trying to figure out like the moves that will work, the strategies that will work for you. And until you shake hands, like it's not over, it's not over. And you want to have that like Rafa Nadal type mentality out there. So that's what I would say.
And would you say that, I guess, that also ties into not just on the tennis court, but also you can apply it to different aspects of life? I mean, what would you say would be the biggest life lesson that you learned that you still apply to this day on the tennis court?
I think it's just that. Just that it's just being
Okay.
able to figure things out. And I definitely am able to apply that same type of mindset into my everyday type life and tasks that I do. So I think that was one of the biggest things that I learned playing Little Mo and all the juniors growing up.
And any advice for the parents? Obviously, at all junior tournaments, we see that the parents sometimes they get a bit over involved in the kids' matches. Is there anything you would say to them as far as helping them helping their kid develop into a better tennis player?
So there's no one size fits all path, especially in tennis. Every kid's different. The best thing parents can do is just be supportive however they can, but also trust the coach and let them do the coaching and try not to stress too much about wins and losses, especially early on. Those early years should be about gaining experience, building skills, and most importantly, keeping the passion alive. If they're still improving and loving the game by age 16 or 18, that's when it really starts to matter because that's when college coaches are paying attention. So, and one word of advice for parents, don't add unnecessary stress or pressure on the kid, but instead appreciate the process.
And what would you say something now? Of course, you came first time around to Little Mo more than 25 years ago, and now you're coming around again with your daughter. What would you say that there's like that you can? I'm sorry, freezing up. The difference that you see in Little Mo as opposed to maybe other junior tournaments that you've been to throughout your 25 plus years of experience in the tennis world.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think whenever I was at Little Mo, and even when I go to Little Mo now and I take kids to tournaments, it has a different feel because you look around at the sites and everybody can play. Everybody looks like a little player and but a real player, and everybody is good at that level. And so that was like the main difference that I saw. And I thought the organization Little Mo they do a good job of making the kids feel special, you know. And so that's kind of like the main things that I see the difference in the Little Mo and the other junior tournaments.
And going again back to a bit of your method, coaching wise, like how does a day or a practice session look like in your academy? Of course, you say that you give importance to all sorts of areas, going from the technique to the match play to the fitness, whatever it is. Um, how would one practice look like?
Well, let's take, for example, let's say I'm doing a class, you know, let's say
Mhm.
there's eight kids there. I would probably start them off with tosser hitter drills, just where I'm like tossing the balls and get their feet really moving and kind of like work on getting a rhythm from there. And then work on from there, go to live ball and try to get some different rhythm, you know, with a ball that's not just perfectly to you. You're gonna have to make yourself get in the position that you need to be in and then being able to put that in practice in play in practice matches. So I would start off with a tosser hitter, some live ball rally, then I would go into maybe live ball points before getting into maybe practicing the serves, and then it's match play from there, and you can't forget about the fitness. Fitness is important.
And what is one thing, I guess, well, I know it's going to be a tricky question, but what would you say is the most important thing that a coach looks for in a player, um that you can say, this one player, this one kid, like, has really good chances of making it? I mean, would you say it's more talent, like maybe the grit and the resilience that the kid has? Like, what's the biggest identifier, if so to speak, like of the projection that you can make for a kid?
Yeah, I think talent definitely helps, but it only takes you so far, right? So what really stands out to coaches is the passion for the game. Like, does a kid actually love to be out there grinding and improving? Movement is a big one too. How well do they move on the court tells you a lot. And then honestly, maturity, being able to handle feedback, stay composed in tough moments, and just being able to show up. I think that's what separates the ones who go far, in my opinion. And being coachable always helps too.
And are those things, like maturity, being coachable, are those things that one can learn, or do you think it's a process in which, it goes as experience, and as time goes on and kids grow up a little bit, get a bit older, they'll start to understand by itself? Or do you think that there are strategies or, practices that they can do to start working on that as a young kid?
I think both. I think both. It develops over time naturally as we get older, but I think there are exercises, training sessions that where you can focus on your mental side. You know, you can talk about it with your parents off the court in between tournaments and discuss what it takes to be mature. What is maturity? We didn't we weren't born, mature and being able to handle ourselves on the court. So it just has to evolve. It is a process, but you also have to actively work on it, or else maybe the process never happens. So I think it goes hand in hand.
And one more question. Um, the level, how would you say that college tennis has changed in the last 25 years? I mean, now we're starting to see a lot of players that decide to first play in a D1 college and then transition into pro before going directly to pro. But I feel like sometimes being down here in Argentina, I come across some players, some parents, and some coaches that they kind of are with a outdated perception, and they say like, oh well, we're gonna go straight to pro because the level in the US, collegiate system, it's not, up to par with futures and challengers, which in the US I feel like that's very obviously like not true. Like whoever
Hmm.
you talk to, you say, okay, well, the top D1 colleges are on par with some great, ATP tournaments, and you start seeing all these players like Shelton and Alex
Hmm.
Nicholson and all these
Hmm.
kids that
Emma
are
Navarro.
breaking through. So how would you say that has changed in the last 25 years? And what would you say are the biggest advantages to going through the college process and the college system?
Oh, I think it's changed considerably. And honestly, when I was 12 years old, I wasn't thinking about college. It was just a different type of mm, mindset, I guess, or I guess a thinking style or methodology of college. Like everyone thought, like, no, if you want to go pro, you got to go pro right after juniors. But
Right.
that's totally backwards now because why wouldn't you want to go to college and get that? Let's say let's say you have a free ride, full ride, why, and you maybe not sure about if you should go pro or you should go to college. If you're not sure, then you should definitely be going to college because let's say you have a full ride. So you're just getting free practice, free training, free bunch of matches, against other teams across the nation where it's a little more pressure, as opposed to playing by yourself or playing in juniors. And so I think college is one of the best things that you could do if you were trying to go pro and you still have like the pro mentality, you still have the pro mindset, then why not take advantage of it? Because let's say you do break through after that first year, you can always go pro, it's not going to be too late. If anything, you just got a bunch of tennis and you just practice a bunch, you met new people, and you got a lot of matches under your belt. So I think it is, and especially nowadays with the amount of sponsorships you can have in college. It wasn't the case when I was there in school, but to me, it seems like a no-brainer if you're not like um, if you're not like one of those pros that's for sure gonna go pro, and like then to me it's a no-brainer. And then because tennis isn't the end of the road for most of us. We
Right.
want to get that education. We want to be a balanced individual, so that's my take on it.
And what's it like playing on a team?
Oh, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Totally different. A lot more pressure. A lot more pressure.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. A lot more pressure because and especially in my case, because I went to a school that really they really had school spirit, you know, and so it
Mhm.
wasn't just for football or the basketball. They would come out, we would have 2,500 people at a
Wow.
tennis match, 2,500 people, and we have stands, they would get all full for doubles. And of course, you know, those people were maybe lured in by free pizza or whatever, you know, so, but, and maybe they did leave after the doubles, but it was it's just it was a fun time, great experience. I think being at Texas A&M was a even more unique experience than maybe like some other place. And I may be biased, but it was a lot of fun. Just the camaraderie I had with the other guys on the team, traveling to like these college towns that we've never even been to, and you're really just still a kid at that age. So
Right.
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
And what's it like balancing the academics and the athletics?
Oh, it's tough. It's tough. And it depends on the school that you go to, of course. Um, but if you go to a school like A&M where they expect, you know, a certain amount of dedication and they expect, you know, a certain amount of hours given for training each week, and then you still have to go to school after that. You know, you still have to go to class after they force you to get up 6:30 in the morning, you go run the hill, and then you go practice, and then you shower, and then you have to go to class, and then you have to make sure you go to class, and then you come back, you practicing again, and the serious ones are the ones who are hitting serves before practice started again, you know. And so, but I'll admit it was pretty tough. Maybe my first year or two, because you know you just don't really know what to expect. Maybe I was in a private school, maybe homeschooled. So I would say the first year is always a little tough, but then you get in the groove of things, and it starts to be a great time.
Well, I've run out of questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
uh Yeah, so I just want to say it's honestly been an honor to be interviewed by Little Mo. The whole era of back then was such a core memory for me and my family. My parents and I absolutely loved those tournaments, the vibe, the competition, the sense of community. It's just awesome to see the organization still going strong after all these years. They even have a Little Mo International, which is kind of wild, you know, super wild.
Yeah.
But it really feels full circle now that I'm coaching and bringing kids to the same tournaments that I once played in. So seeing it from the other side, it kind of makes me appreciate it even more.
Well, Kayvon, thank you so much. It's been a great chat. Thank you for sharing all of your experience as a player, as a coach, as a parent. We really appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll get in touch again sometime soon. Maybe I'll even see you at one of the tournaments.
I hope so. I appreciate it, Matthias. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.